Hey, what is up guys? Rock here. Welcome back to another Blue Archive video. Alright, so a lot of you guys have asked me to make a 2024 tier list. The last one I did was about 1 year ago. Let's try my best, give you guys my opinion, my takes on a bunch of these characters moving forward. Now keep in mind that there's plenty of characters in Blue Archive. Both are in the separate category, alright, especially for striker class and for special class. Alright, as you can see, I have plenty of characters built, but there are also plenty of characters that I never actually touch as well. What you're gonna see in this particular tier list is gonna be my personal opinion. This is gonna be my tier list, but hey, I'll try to give you guys as best as I can of a reasoning of why the characters are placed in each of the categories or each tiers, right? At the end of the day, hopefully, I'll try my best to give the best possible rankings for every single students as someone that's been playing the game since day one. With that being said, let's jump into it. Blue Archive tier list 2024. Okay, so as you guys can see, there's plenty of students right here. A lot of them. Like a lot, alright? So we're gonna list every single one. This is going to be a long video. I want to not just put them in the tier list or a rankings. I want to also give you guys an explanation of why they are where they are. So it's going to be a much more informed tier list. So hopefully you guys get an idea of why certain characters are placed that way, in my humble opinion. Again, take all of this with a grain of salt. This is just an opinion of one particular hardcore Blue Archive player that's been playing since day one and also a big Nexon fan. Alright, let's go. Let's just first put a category rankings into all of this. So I do think that the one that I think is going to be extremely strong is the S+, or the one that's a must-have in my humble opinion. Now, why do I call them must-have? They are going to be pretty much useful everywhere. Alright, doesn't matter in raids, in story, in a bunch of situations. They can be used in multitudes of different categories of, places. And then the A tier, alright, I would say like this one are like strong characters. I'm just gonna put like a strong, usually characters here, they're going to be very, very good against one particular boss. At the same time, they also aren't exceptional because they have competitions among themselves. Alright, for example, like a single target. Same goes for the AoE characters in the specific element, right? So that's going to be something that you have to consider. Now, for the next one, the B tier, these are going to be the mid, alright? So they are somewhat like in the middle, like average, right? I would say. And then this is going to be the one that's least used. You probably don't really need to build these students. I'm just going to put like seldom used. You almost won't use them. In fact, if you didn't build them at all, you didn't level them up at all, they won't serve any purpose to anyone's account because there's just better characters overall. You can still build them for fun, right? Plenty of characters, they are like, they can be used in some situations. I do think that a lot of the Blue Archive characters can be used, but I would say there's going to be some characters that belong in this category, alright? If you build them or if you don't build them, it probably won't affect your account that much because the chances of you using them is going to be very little. And that's pretty much it. That's the only particular tiers that we need. Alright, so plenty of students. Let's get started working. Oh, let's add one more category. This is going to be for JP only. Alright, so until they come to global, so they are going to be JP only for the time being. Okay, so let's go. Let's get started. First up, Irie. Let's be honest, alright? Let's just be honest. How many of you guys actually build Irie? So just gonna put her there. She's not bad, but you most likely won't use her ever. Oh, she's actually level 1. I never actually touch her. She does damage, but decreased movement speed. So far, we haven't had the need to use that. I guess you could use her on drills for sure, or in some of the training drills, but in most cases, she's just not needed, right? Now, moving on with the next one, Akane. Now this one is going to be very interesting. Now is she here, here? Now, Akane is one of the few characters in the game that's extremely unique because she has the ability to decrease defense. Now, decrease defense is going to be very good against bosses. She does decent damage, alright, she decreases defense by up to 37.7%. She's going to be one of the more common characters that you see in a lot of Binah strategy. Alright, in Binah raid boss, she's going to be very strong right there. I want to say she's going to be one of the better characters for sure. But she's not necessarily a must-have, there's plenty of other options. I think the reason why she belongs in the A tier or in the strong tier is because you won't really use her outside of raids. You don't really use her in PvP, you don't really use her in story, you don't use her in the hard stages. Alright, she's going to shine particularly in raids and more than likely in the yellow raids. Now next up we have Akari. Now Akari is a really strong character, I do like her. If you ask me what's the better, 2-star characters or lower rarity characters to build, I would say Akari should be one of them. She does decent damage, her AoE is pretty good, you can see she is a 4-cost unit and she is a very good character for beginners to totally build. I would recommend her and Mutsuki alongside with that, right? Now next up we have Aris. Now let's talk about Aris a little bit, right? So what is she more focused on? So the truth is, I did get her a little bit late and I didn't really build my Aris as much. But she's gonna be a blue type character. She's much more focused on doing AoE damage. Her cost is a little bit high, as you can see, 6 costs. And her area is gonna be focused more in a single straight line. Alright, if you're trying to focus enemies down in a straight line, that's where she shines. However, Haruna exists. Alright, I do think that Haruna is going to be where I would say makes her less used. It's not that Iris is bad, it's just Haruna is going to be the better character to use if you're trying to get rid of enemies in the straight line. Yes, Haruna's line is thinner, it's like a slim, one straight thin line, but it's just, she's a 3 cost, it's going to be way easier to use her, plus she's way easier to obtain. Alright, you get Haruna by farming her shards. It's going to be one of the earliest ones that you can obtain in the hard stages, and for a lot of new players, Haruna just makes more sense. That being said, I don't think they are that different in the tiers, so I'm going to put them, so I do think that they deserve in the same tier. I don't think the differences is going to be that huge. Now next up we have Aru. Aru is really strong. In fact, I would say borderline she could be here. I do think that it is going to be a bit more complex, alright? She is going to be a very strong character in a lot of raids, alright? Especially in Kaiten, alright? If you're going to use her, it's either going to be Aru or Azusa. These two are one of the better explosive characters. You're going to need them a lot, alright? Especially later on. Now the reason why I wouldn't put Aru here, alright? And the reason why I wouldn't put Azusa there, alright? Again, these two are very strong characters if you are dealing with enemies that are raid type. Alright, especially the boss, especially Azusa is a single target damage dealer. If you guys are not aware, Azusa is one of the few characters in the game. She has the ability to decrease defense. Alright, now this ability right here, this basic skill, is going to be very important, especially if you are dealing with bosses, right? When you fight against bosses, having the ability to decrease defense is just going to put you on top. So ideally, I would say Azusa could belong here as well. But remember what I said earlier, the reason why these characters are right here in A tier is not because they are bad, it's just they compete amongst each other. So the problem with Aru is, I do think that she has a competition. Now who's the competition? Number 1, Hibiki. Now Hibiki is also an AoE character, and if you're looking just to tackle stages that have bosses, in some situations Hibiki could be better because Hibiki's AoE is much more widespread. Therefore, they both compete amongst each other, and it doesn't make any of them unique in that sense. Now as for Azusa, she has plenty of competition. Azusa is much more focused in terms of a single target, as you can see, single target damage to one enemy. Now who is that going to compete with? She's going to compete with number 1, Saori. They both literally do the same thing. Single target damage, very high single target damage in terms of explosive type. You could argue the same about Mashiro as well. So Mashiro is going to be a little bit different. Mashiro is a special type, and I used to think that she's really strong, and I still think she is strong. Now the problem with Mashiro is she belongs in a special slot, unlike Azusa and Saori where they belong in a striker slot. Now in a special slot, ideally you want to have strong sub skill. Alright, sub skill is this particular thing, a strong passive skill that gives boost to everyone in the team. So Mashiro's sub skill is not that impressive. It gives accuracy compared to some characters, for example like Kotama, which makes more sense for beginner players because she buffs, and also her sub skill, she gives everyone attack 17.3%. So you're gonna use her most of the time. And then for someone like Akko, for example, where she just straight up give everyone crit damage 17.3%, again, this is much more important of a sub skill. Or even Hibiki, that also does the same thing, give everybody ally crit damage by 17.3%. So I think what brings down Mashiro is not her single target damage or single target ability, but it's more of her sub skill right here, which basically pushes her down. So Mashiro is going to be the one that I'm going to say she's strong, but you know, in most general cases, I would say she's below everyone else due to her more niche sub skill, which is important if the boss have high evasion, giving you accuracy, but in most cases, she's not like a general character that you want to bring in. Now next up, let's talk about Asuna. Asuna is going to be very, very interesting. I think she's a very strong character, alright? I used to use her a lot, but recently I've noticed she has garnered less and less usage. Now the problem with Asuna is she doesn't really do much, alright? She is a character that can reposition herself. Now as you can see, she's a 2-cost character, alright? When she repositions herself, when you slide her around, she can increase her evasion and increase her attack speed. Now, sadly, there are more characters that have appeared ever since. She is a day 1 character that was in the game ever since, but there's way more characters that can do that. For example, Tracksuit Yuka that can basically move the entire characters, the entire roster, and switch position entirely without needing Asuna. So Asuna doesn't really make sense in most cases anymore because she only moves herself. There's not much option right there for lower rarities. I would say she's one of the better ones, but still I don't think she deserves to be in the A category. I'm going to move her down to B. Now next up we have Ayane. So Ayane, again, I do think that she is a healer on the special slot, and that's where it probably suffers a little bit. Ayane has 2 versions. One is the helicopter swimsuit Ayane, one is the regular version. Now not bad, alright, she does heal allies in a circle, 4 costs. However, that's pretty much all she does. The rest doesn't really help much. The max HP is not really needed in raids. You still ideally want to have crit damage, attack percent boost, those things, right? There's just way better healers in this particular category. I'm going to push her on the B tier. Now next up is Cherino. Now Cherino is strong. She is so strong that I could say that she's borderline right here, where she is going to be super flexible. I think every character that deserves to be on S+ are characters that are flexible. Now, why is she strong? It's not because of her EX skill. You are not going to use her, but it's because of the cost regen. This particular skill right here. Cost recovery is very important. That means you can generate cost faster, and that means you can use skills more often. Alright, if you are able to use EX skills more often, that's always going to be the case. So you can just put her, slot her in with any team, and you will be able to regenerate your EX skill cost, you know, with the cost recovery faster, and therefore improving your team's overall synergy, right? You don't have to worry about not being able to cycle it fast enough. So I think she's going to be very, very strong. You don't really need to use her EX skill as much. You can put her against any bosses, against any raid boss, and it's going to work most of the time. I do think that Cherino is definitely one of the best characters in the game up until today. Definitely consider getting her. Now let's talk about the next one, Chinatsu. Chinatsu is a strong character. I do think that you need to build her for Perorotzilla because she's one of the few characters that can cleanse debuff. If you look at this, alright? So recovers HP and also removes one status ailment. However, she's not the only character that can remove debuffs. There's plenty of other characters that can remove debuffs. So that's why I think because of that particular reason, she's gonna be somewhere. It's hard to put her on the upper tier because her sub skill increase ally defense. Again, similar issue with Ayane. I would say in most cases, if they are giving attack or crit damage percent, I would say that's better for a special skill, for a special slot support. And her heal is only going to be a single target, so I'm going to push her down to B tier. Still worth deserving the build though. I do think that she's going to be very, very strong. I have her up as level 83 as you can see, almost max her out. If you're looking for a healer, she's going to be one of the better one, alright, for a single target. But she's just outclassed by the best healer in the game for now. It's going to be Serena. Now, Serena is, I think she's just the best healer, right? She's a single target healer and she's a 2-cost. And also she can move your tank around. Usually if you can force move your characters around, that makes her really, really strong. Yes, she can only move one character, but because she's free pretty much for everyone, I believe she's a 1-star character by default. I feel like she's really strong. I think she's probably one of the best characters to build early on. So I'm going to put her in the S+. She's super flexible. If you don't know what healers to bring her. You're going to use her almost everywhere. You're going to use her in raids, in story stages, in drills, even can be used in PvP as well. She's just an overall extremely solid character. Yes, she's 1-star, alright. It's weird to put a 1-star character in S+, but she's just that strong. I feel like you will never see anyone that plays Blue Archive without building her. Chise. Now Chise, I would say she's borderline at the top tier. If you're looking for an AoE mystic type, alright, a blue type damage dealer, huge AoE, alright, she has a very huge circle. However, she does DOT, alright, she's not like a burst character. So, like I said, she does have some competition that appears recently, and that includes Swimsuit Koharu, so which I'm going to drag out right now. Swimsuit Koharu just came out recently, and she is going to be a very strong character. AoE circular area as well, and they both fit the same role, and because they both sort of compete amongst each other, I'm going to put them together in the same tier, right? Now I understand that Swimsuit Koharu is going to be harder to max compared to Chise. Chise is a 2-star, right? And it's like you probably have plenty of dudes for her, and that's going to be a factor, I understand that. But again, I do think that Swimsuit Koharu is going to be, someone that you can consider. If you're looking to max her, she's going to be pretty decent as well. Okay, so far we have gone through about 20% of the characters. Whew, insane. We're gonna take a short break to give a big shout out for today's sponsor for this video, Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. This video is sponsored by Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. If you guys are not familiar with what they are, Tokyo Treat and both Sakura Co, they are basically a Japanese snack subscription box that gives you plenty of snacks, some of them exclusive, some of them even limited edition exclusively from Japan. Now this month's Tokyo Treat theme is Be My Valentine, and is filled with plenty of favorite treats to celebrate Valentine's Day, with strawberry shortcake, Kit Kat, Pokemon candy hearts, Pinkara, spicy ramen, and many more. Now as for Sakura Co, it has a very different theme. Its theme for this month is Valentine's Indulgence. Now Valentine's in Japan is not just about sweets, it's a celebration of shared connections, blending traditional and contemporary delights in a beautiful tale of love and unity. Indulge in the flavor through peach dorayaki, chocolate Danish, mini heart arare, and all of these pairs perfectly with the cocoa sencha tea. Now this month's tableware item is a Kiko plate or Firefly plate. Now if you guys are interested to purchase any of the Tokyo Treat or Sakura Co box, make sure you guys use my code GuitarRock for $5 off. I'll have all the relevant links in the description below. Now thank you again to Sakura Co and Tokyo Treat for sponsoring today's video. Alright, next up, Amy. Amy is a decent character. She's a very strong tank. Alright, she's a defender. She competes against a lot of other characters in the game. So how strong is she? I want to say she's borderline between strong and mid. I do think that Amy has a lot of potential, and recently they did add her in the shop as well, in the tactical, I believe the drill shop, and she's a free character that you can purchase the shards of right here in the joint firing drill, and a lot of players would be able to obtain her for free. Now the problem with Amy is not because she's bad, it's because there's a better tank that is much easier for every other player to access, aka Tsubaki. Now Tsubaki is just straight up a monster. I mean, I can't imagine a single player that plays Blue Archive without building Tsubaki. Now, let me go and find her, drag her up, because I think Tsubaki is the reason why every other tank is obsolete. Alright, so I'll be honest, if there's any character in the game that you want to build first as a defender, it has to be Tsubaki. Tsubaki is going to be used everywhere. Alright, it doesn't matter if it's blue raids, yellow raids, purple raids, whatever. If you are tackling the low difficulty, alright, talking about like very hard or extreme difficulty, Tsubaki is going to be just fine, alright, for most cases in every single raid. Now, when it comes to specialized raids, so I can understand that some characters might be, some tanks might be needed, but Tsubaki is going to be the go-to tank that you are going to need, that you're gonna just straight up put in your team. If you can't think of a defender, just use her. Alright, you will not regret it. She's gonna be the best character, evasion-based tank, I would say very, very strong. Now next up, we have Pina. Now, Pina is going to be borderline here or here. I think she's a really strong character, I do. The truth is, ever since Mika appeared, it's just hard to consider or justify using her. Now, I get it, for new players or new accounts, she is going to serve a different purpose for a lot of players. Now you can see she's much more of a single attack target. She increases her attack, ignores normal attack delay, and reloads instantly. She's very strong. Alright, she's going to be able to do a bunch of crit as well, and you can see increased crit, and she is able to increase her own attack speed, 38%, standing still for 10 seconds. Now the truth is, while she is strong, I don't think you need her as much, alright? She's one of the few that I will put her borderline in between. If there's a tier in between A and B in this case, I will put her there. But for now, I'm just going to leave her at A. I think if you build her, you won't regret it for sure. She can be used, but once you obtain some better characters that I'm going to talk about, those are going to be just straight up better. Now as for Fuuka, I think she's going to be very strong, and I still think now Fuuka used to be really strong if you start the game since day one. She's one of the few special characters, again in special slot, that can move your characters around. And that is ideally going to be a very good thing, alright? Move an ally to a certain location. Her main issue is her cost. She has very high cost at EX skill cost 5. That's number 1. Number 2, sub skill. Again, crit resistance is a very defensive skill. Like I mentioned earlier, you want to go for something offensive, and that's why most of the time you don't really use her as much anymore. When the game first came out, she's definitely one of the better characters to build, but after time has passed, 2 years now, it does feel like she's less used, so I'm going to put her right here. I don't think she's bad by any means, but it's just, you're not going to need her as much anymore. Now next up is Hana-A. I do think that Hana-A is going to be one of the better healers than some of these other healers right here. The reason why is because she can apply heal over time. As you can see, she does apply continuous recovery. She is a 4-cost healer as well, and at least the sub skill gives crit damage. Now this makes a lot of sense. If you max this out, it's going to be 17.3%. So that's going to be one of the reasons why I think Hana-A is going to be one of the better characters, one of the better healers. Now is she better than Serena? I don't think so, but I do think that, you know, her being a 4-cost continuous healer, I would put her right here, right? Now Hanako sadly is not going to be that impressive of a healer. Would I say that she's here? In fact, no. In fact, I'm going to put her right here. I don't think you're going to be able... I don't think you're going to have a reason to build her over any of the other healers that we have mentioned so far, right? There's going to be more to come as well. Now you can see her EX cost is quite high. 5 cost is really high. She does heal HP over time as well, and I don't find that impressive, or so far we haven't had the need to do that. Her sub skill, increased ally healing. It's just that her cost is really high, and she's just a dedicated healer for that. In most cases, there's plenty of other healers that can do their job, alright? Or you can just bring like a tank to tank for you. I don't see the need of Hanako per se. I feel like if you don't build her, your account will be fine, to be honest. Now next up we have Hair. Now Hair is a unique one, alright? She is going to be borderline, I would say, can be strong, can be used, right? But she's not the best character. You rarely see a strategy with her being used in a lot of cases. I don't think I've ever seen a single raid or drill that specializes in using her. I feel like you can make her work for sure, right, if you have her built, but it's just, do you want to go out of the way to do something like so different and so bizarre, right? That's up to the players to decide, right? But for me personally, I don't think she's gonna have much use. Overall, I'm just gonna place her right here in C. Now, Haruka is a very unique tank. She's a 1-star. I think she's a very strong tank. She's one of the few tanks that I think can compete with Tsubaki. Alright, she's much more of a defensive tank. Tsubaki is much more of an evasion tank. However, in most cases, I think Tsubaki is just going to make much more sense in the go-to tank. I'm going to place Haruka as 1 tier below, just because Tsubaki is a better tank than her in PvP. I think that makes for a lot of difference. I think Haruka can also be used. Overall, what she does is she deals damage and she marches forward a little bit, right? Tsubaki is going to make much more sense because she can taunt. I think that's going to be much more important for a lot of players that's trying to like build a strategy around certain things, right? Next up, we have Hasumi. Now, Hasumi is going to be a very strong single target yellow damage dealer. Now, this is where it comes in, alright? So we are comparing a few different characters. I think if you build her, she's gonna be very, very good. So what is the issue right now? Mika exists. That's pretty much the issue. Alright, if Mika didn't exist, she probably could have a lot of usage, but because Mika is so strong for a single target, a piercing type or yellow damage dealer, you probably won't need Hasumi as much, and that's the problem here. A lot of these characters right here, they compete amongst each other. So you can see Pina and Hasumi, they are both very similar, right? To be honest, if you're looking for a yellow single target damage dealer, they both can fulfill that role, but so does Yori, which I'm going to say Yori is better. Now, maybe I'm biased, I do think that Yori is really, really broken. She's not only focused in single target, she's also focused in AoE. Alright, she's very, very unique, one of the few unique characters that can basically fire 3 shots that does multitude of damage. She's very low cost, 3 cost. I think the developers until today still have PTSD of how broken she is. I haven't seen a single character that has the same concept with Yori. Most characters are either single target or AoE, but Yori is both. And she's a 3 cost character, which is just straight up insane, straight up bizarre. She does a lot of things. She's a solid character. You will be able to use her to carry you in a lot of situations, in any story stages, in any of the drill content, and in a bunch of raids as well. So I do think that Yori is probably one of the better characters if you can obtain. She is straight up going to be solid. If you're a new player, you build her, you're not going to regret it, for sure. She will be able to carry you in a lot of situations. Now next up we have Hifumi. Hifumi is going to be a decent character. She's very unique, alright, she does a very different things. However, the issue is going to be in the cost, alright, 5 cost is a little bit too high. She can be used to fight against Berozilla, for sure, alright, she can be one of the better characters to try to beat that particular giant bird. The problem is going to be her high cost. The cost recovery is not bad when you use her EX skill, but other than that, you're probably not going to use her that much because in most normal situations, you won't need Taunt as much when you fight against bosses. You're going to bring like a tank and put them in front, and they will be the one that do the tanking for you. In most cases, that particular strategy makes more sense. Now, she can be used in drill, so I don't think she's entirely useless. So I'm going to put her right here. I think she's not really strong, but she's not really bad either. So I think right here in the middle is where I think it fits her really well. Now let's talk about Hina. Let's be honest, Hina is, believe it or not, on my JP server account, she's one of my first character that I obtained that I rerolled for. Sadly, I don't think I can recommend her for any people. She's not bad, it's just that she's extremely high cost. 7 cost is just absurd, alright, for what she provides. AoE character, I get it, but at 7 cost, it's just really, really hard to recommend her for anyone. So I do think that, you know, as much as I love her and as much as I think she's going to be decent, I don't think she's going to have much use compared to someone like Aru, for example, and all of these other characters that can straight up just provide more. Even the summer version, alright, the summer Hina, I do think that that's a better version of her. And I'm going to place the swimsuit Hina right here, alright, in this particular category. I think this is where she belongs because she is an AoE character. So I think she can fight or can compete with Hibiki, with Aru to a certain extent, but of course Aru is gonna do just way more damage. I think Swimsuit Hina is gonna be decent if you're looking for AoE character, but yeah, she does get outclassed by the other two right here, right? Now Hoshino is going to be a very interesting one. I think she's one of the better tank. I would say she can compete with Tsubaki in terms of one of the better defenders or better tank in the game. But I still think flexibility wise, she is going to be slightly less used than Tsubaki, but because of her prominent slot in PvP and also her ability to stun, she used to be here for sure, alright. I would say about 1 year back, she's definitely, there's not much competition. But nowadays, there's just way more tank that has come out ever since, and Tsubaki just shines above anyone else. And the problem is she's a 3-star, alright? As a 3-star, it's going to be harder to build and harder to max out. If there's a tier in between, I will place her between S plus and A. However, I think she's much more deserving of this spot. She is very similar to Haruka, very, very strong tank, very solid defender overall. So I'm going to place them both right here, alright? So we have a much better, much fairer point of comparison. Now next up, let's talk about the burger girl. Come on, let's be honest, alright? She's not going to have much use. She's a DPS, a damage dealer that stays at the back that heals herself. Now that is going to be a big problem. Why would you need a DPS that stays at the back to heal yourself? I don't know. Now Izuna is going to be a very interesting character. She is going to be a mystic type. Alright, she can do decent damage. She's a low 3 cost character. You can move her accordingly. Alright, you can reposition her. I think she's one of the better characters for sure, but I don't think she stands out as much as the other characters. I'm not sure if she is deserving of this higher spot. I think she is. Again, I would really like to place her somewhere in between here, but I think she's gonna be slightly better than the rest on the B tier. Now next up, Junko. Again, she is an AoE character that hits in a single line. She's really niche. It's not that she's bad, it's more to how her kit works. So every time she does damage, right, she decreases her current HP. And then the less HP she has, the more damage she can do, as you can see, right? So she can do up to 7.9% of attack proportionate to your missing HP as additional damage when attacking. So I think she's a very strong character. However, she needs the setup. Alright, you gotta set her up properly, make sure that she loses her HP. So you gotta use this particular EX skill multiple times. And then she's gonna be on the verge of dying. And then depending on the enemy that you fight, if they do AoE, you're gonna get wiped out easily. So yeah, you need her to be low HP, you cannot heal her. And she does a lot of damage based upon more HP loss. It's just a very weird scenario. It's just a very weird thing to utilize, and very difficult to basically set up in a lot of situations. I'm gonna put her right here because of that. I'm gonna put her right here in the mid tier because of that. Now next up is gonna be Juri. Let's be honest, we all seldom use her. She moves enemies instead of the allies and just poison over time. Saya is just better if you're looking for someone that can do poison. Now next up we have Karin. Karin, very strong single target piercing type character. So she is very similar to Hasumi. Hasumi is on the striker slot. Karin is going to be on a special slot. Now Karin has a very good sub skill as well. I do think that that's going to be why she is right here. As you can see, she is able to increase allies attack, and her EX skill does a bunch of damage, and if the enemy is an extra large enemy, she's gonna do even more. Very good in a bunch of bosses. Now next up, let's talk about Kayoko. Kayoko is a very unique character. However, she has one big issue, which is her cost. Alright, she is a character that can apply CC. If you are just looking to straight up apply CC, she's gonna be very good. 6 cost is just really expensive though. So if you are using her, most of the time you'll be pairing her with Ui. Now I do think that she's a very solid character overall. If you are trying to build her to deal with some situations, some sticky situations, or where you need to be able to CC the enemy, she is one of the better characters. However, her issue is going to be her EX skill cost. Alright, like I said, very high. Therefore, I do think that she deserves to be somewhere here. You need to pair her with Ui to make her work to her full efficiency. If she was 4 costs or 3 costs, I will place her here, but because of 6 costs, I think she's much more deserving of being on the B tier. Now next up we have Kotama, definitely one of the best buffer in the game, no doubt. Alright, so if you're looking for a low cost buffer, I think Kotama, the only character that can give a bunch of attack percent. Alright, she gives insane buffs for a low rarity character. She's free as well, increase 47% attack, and give more ally attack. Insane, absolutely one of the strongest character in the game, strongest supporter in the game for sure. Now Kotori is going to be one of the more average character, I would say. Now she does move allies to a location and then she gives them some sort of barrier. That can be good and all. However, you know, there's also a better alternative for that, which is why I'm going to put her right here in the mid tier. Now Maki, definitely a very strong single target, definitely competes with a lot of other single target in terms of the piercing type, alright, the yellow type. I do think that she outshines Hasumi in this case, she outshines Karin in most cases, she definitely is better than Pina. You should get her, and she's free as well in the shop. Definitely she should be the first character that you want to try to max out. Alright, very strong character, she can decrease defense as well, very good for Bina especially. Now let's talk about Midori and Momoi. Now I do think that these two are very good in the pack. Now especially Momoi. I think Momoi is the strongest one between the two. Alright, if you're looking for an AoE character, she is 3 cost. Yes, if Midori is there, she's gonna do way more damage. But in most cases, if you're trying to tackle yellow bosses, AoE characters like Cheese, these two are going to be very, very strong. Both Midori and Momoi, you don't really need to use them as much in a pair, but I think Momoi is going to be the better one because she's easy to obtain. She's pretty much a free character, right? Because she's a 2-star, and if you build her, she can do a lot of things. Now, Musuki is probably one of the strongest character in the game. Alright, if you're building her, I would say she's the priority for every single player to build for explosive type characters, AoE. Alright, she competes with Akari for sure. I do think that she's better than Akari. For 4 cost unit, her AoE is bigger, right? So if you are looking just straight up there, she's similar to Aru in that case, right? But she's a 2-star. So I think she is a very solid. I would borderline put her right here, alright? I don't think you're gonna use her in every single raid, which is the only reason why I don't think she should be there in the top tier, where those characters are super flexible. They can be used almost anywhere. Now, Neru is a decent tank, alright? She is a 2-cost character. However, she's mostly used in, you know, some niche situations. You're not gonna prioritize her over Tsubaki, to be honest. So I think B tier is where she deserves. Nadoka is probably one of the least used character as well in the game. She does gives buff, but her buff is very niche. And you can see right here, increased accuracy. And that is pretty much it. You ideally want someone that gives damage for that slot. Nonomi, alright, I do think that she is going to be one of the better AoE characters. Now, she does compete with Momoi in that case. However, she's much more expensive at 5 costs, but you do get her for free, right? So that's one thing or one reasoning why you can put Nonomi right here. Now, Saya is going to be, a lot of people made fun of her for being a rat, but I do think that she's one of the stronger characters for AoE DOT characters. Now, yes, Hibiki is going to be straight up better, alright, but I think Saya is going to be slightly behind. I don't think the differences is that huge to justify Saya being here, alright. They are actually really close. The only place where Hibiki shines more is probably going to be PvP, where, you know, she does instant burst damage, where Saya does slow DOT poison, right? Now, Sarika is going to be a very strong single target character. She's a 2-cost character if you're trying to cycle, very easy to use for an explosive type. She's going to be one of the better characters to consider for a... she doesn't really shine as much compared to a lot of AoE or single target specializers, but she's up there, alright, if you're trying to do damage in especially like Kaiten boss, she can be used there for sure. Now, next up, we have the bookworm Shimiko. Shimiko, sadly, you're not going to use her that much, let's be honest, alright, so she is not going to be in a high tier. Now, Shiroko is... she used to be really strong, for sure, but I feel like ever since plenty of other characters came out, she's one of the day 1 characters, but over the course of like 2 years, I think she's much more deserving of this slot now, because there's plenty of other competitions that can do what she can do better. Outside of Kaiten boss, where you're trying to just basically reduce the boss effectiveness of shield, she doesn't have much use per se. I still think you should consider building her, but she's not as specialized as the other characters right here in this particular slot. Now, Shizuko, this is the regular Shizuko. I think she is going to be one of the least used character as well. The problem is summoning a cover, alright, can be good, but it only summons 1 cover and it only helps you. In most cases, repositioning everyone is just going to make more sense. So I do think that Shizuko is going to be, you know, one of the lesser used characters. Now, Shun is a very tough one, right? In all honesty, I think she's going to be a very niche character. You're probably not going to use her much outside of PvP. But because she's so strong in PvP, and she's like literally the top tier of PvP character, I think just because of that, she is a PvP queen herself. Like, there's not one person that I've ever seen that never used Shun in PvP. Now, in raids, she can be used for sure, but I don't think she shines there per se. But because of how strong she is in PvP, I think that alone is going to be reason enough for me to put her up there. She's really strong, but do keep in mind, alright, this is going to be like a specialized unit. She's going to be a PvP exclusive character, so hopefully you guys are aware of that. Now, next up, we have Suma Air. Now, she is going to be one of the better characters. Now, she's a very unique one, right? She's a tank that does damage somewhat. She's a front character, she stays in front, but she doesn't really take hits as well as the other tanks. So because of that, she's a really tough spot. I would say she's borderline in between, but I don't think she's as bad as the other characters down here at the bottom. I'm going to put her right here since she's deserving of that slot. Amy is there, so I don't see why she wouldn't be there as well. Now Suzumi is going to be similar to Akari right here. They are both AoE characters that, you know, does damage in the circular area. Now obviously because of that, I think they deserve this slot, but in most cases, Akari is going to be the better one in my humble opinion between the two. Now Suzumi does have some CC going into her. If you're looking to basically just apply CC to the enemy, Suzumi will be able to provide you that. Alright, the stun can be useful depending on what you're trying to do or what you're trying to achieve. Now next up we have Tsurugi. Sadly, she's going to be much more of a mid character. I think the problem with her, the biggest issue with her kit is her requirements to be able to get rid of enemies. So she can only fit in situations where there are plenty of enemies or plenty of small mobs available, right? As you can see right here, you know, add one bullet upon defeating an enemy. So her synergy is going to lie upon the maps spawning a bunch of enemies. For now, there's not much bosses that can do that, right? Outside of Chist, so she definitely is much more of a specialized unit rather than someone that's like super strong. Now Utaha, you're probably not going to use her as much as well. I've used her a couple of times in drills. She's not bad, but she's going to be seldom used compared to a lot of other characters that are above that tier. She summons a turret, very unique in that sense. And that's pretty much it. She is a 4-cost character. Her sub-skill is not that impressive as well by giving ally max HP. So that case alone, do put her in the seldom list. Same applies to Yoshimi. She is, however, going to be right here at the bottom. So if you don't build her, I don't think you're missing out on much. Now, Yuuka is where it gets super interesting. Now, a lot of people are saying Yuuka is going to be on A tier. I do think right now she's going to be the strongest tank that can compete with Tsubaki. Yes, if there's anyone that can compete with Tsubaki in terms of tanking, it's going to be her, Yuuka, because she's so strong in PvP. I do think that borderline she's going to do a lot. Now, this particular unique item puts her on the top slot. Alright, she can do insane damage right now, and also she can increase her evasion by a ton. So that puts her on the top spot. Now if you don't have Tsubaki, she's probably going to be the next alternative for trying to fulfill that tank slot for a lot of players. Now in most accounts, I would say Yuuka is going to make a lot of sense. Make sure you guys build her. Yuzu is a decent character for AoE, but because there's just way better AoE characters, like I mentioned, Momoi is going to be way easier to build. Nonomi is free, accessible for everyone. Yuzu is there, I understand, but the truth is, she's probably going to be used less compared to the others. And also, you know, if you have access to Yori as well, you're probably not going to need Yuzu as much. So I'm going to put her somewhere mid. Now Koharu is a very unique one. I think she's probably one of the strongest healer in the game. I think she's a very complicated one, right? Compared to a lot of other healers, like for example, we have Serena, alright, and then we have something like Hanae. Now these healers, all of these, they do rely on, you know, being in the special slot. Koharu is a striker healer, and she's a 3-cost healer that can heal everyone at the same time, which is just insanely invaluable. The amount of things she provides is going to be quite insane, and also you can use her heal to do damage as well. So I do think that she deserves the S+ ranking for a character. I do think that she, you know, if you have to build a healer and you can't think of anyone else, she's going to be one of the better ones. So Swimsuit Azusa, very strong single target mystic type. Alright, so she is a blue mystic type. So similar to I would say not really similar to Haruna, because these two are more like AoE, but you can see they are like in the same role. Later you will see much more of a variation of other characters that like compete amongst each other. I would say Mashiro has the same concept as well. Now, however, Mashiro has a very huge problem. She's a special slot, right? So I think Swimsuit Mashiro in this case is kind of problematic because she's a special slot. So similar to the regular Mashiro, the sub-skill is not that impressive, and she is very good in PvP in terms of trying to one-shot Tsubaki. You will see that a lot. But other than that, ever since Swimsuit Shiroko came out, which I do think that she is a better character, and let me go and drag her up now, because Swimsuit Shiroko I think is going to be The determining factor, I think she's the better one. Alright, I think Swimsuit Shiroko is going to be a better unit, better than Swimsuit Mashiro. She is an upgrade for sure. So for a single target Mystic type, as you can see, special slot, striker slot, but still she does give cost regen. She's really strong. Now I would argue that borderline she could be here, but because she has competition with other slots, I would say she's much more of a in this particular A tier. Now Swimsuit Tsurugi, I think she's seldom used. In most cases, she could be in C tier or B tier, but I want to place her in C tier for now. I do think that most of the time she has better replacements, and sadly, same applies for Swimsuit Hifumi. Alright, so Swimsuit Yori is going to be a decent character, but she's not bad. Now Swimsuit Hina is right here. Alright, I did place Swimsuit Hina right here to be fair. Now, I don't think she's that far apart from Swimsuit Hina. I do think that Swimsuit Yori is better than Swimsuit Hina if you're looking to tackle certain bosses. Yes, Swimsuit Hina is much more AoE focused, but Swimsuit Yori can do overall more damage in my humble opinion. So if you max her out, I think they do have the potential to be on par with each other, but of course, these two has sort of like pushed down the meta a little bit. They used to be really strong, but right now there's just way more competition. Swimsuit Izumi. Now she is going to be quite unique. She has stun and stuff. She could be borderline here or here, but you know what? I feel like being a welfare character, she is somewhat free and easier to access. However, in terms of overall strength, I think she's much more of a mid, right? Because she's focused on providing stun as far as I'm concerned. I do have her build, as you can see, just so you guys know, but it's just I haven't found a use to be able to use her that often, right? So 4 cost with stun, it is a single target, but there's just better option if you're on single target, like Azusa is better and stuff, right? So that's why she's much more of there. Now cycling Shiroko, she is an AoE, similar to Chise. I'm going to put her next to Chise, but the truth is Chise is just much more accessible to more players, much easier to build, and that's just that. But I don't think that they are that far apart as well. Now Kirino, she's going to be the rare one that I could say seldom used as well. I think most players didn't really build her that much, sadly. She's the Valkyrie school student. She is going to be somewhat less used. Now as for Small Shun, right, single target, again similar to Saori, similar to Azusa. Now who is better? I'm going to say Azusa is still going to be much more flexible. Small Shun is much more niche, but there are some bosses that she can outperform the other two. That's something to consider. Now Casual Saya is a really strong support. Now only if you I think when she first came out, she's like borderline here. But then after that, more competition came out and now she's like here, sadly. She is a strong support, however. Now, as for Swimsuit Karin, very strong Mystic type AoE character, so I'm going to place her right here. The problem with her is high cost. I think she's 7 cost, so you need Ui to make her work consistently. Bunny Neru is one of the worst bunny characters. However, yeah, she's definitely much more here. In fact, I will put her right here, to be honest. Alright, I think like to call her mid is an understatement. I think the truth is most players did skip her compared to the other bunny characters, which is Bunny, Karin, and who was it? Bunny Asuna. But I think she's an okay option. If you have her build, she could be used, but truth is seldom used. Bunny Asuna is much more similar to the other AoE characters right here. Alright, so there's plenty of other similar AoE characters. They fill the same role. She is a circular area, similar to Chise, but again, Chise is much more accessible, so therefore there's that. Nanatsu is a very specialized tank in which she can cleanse her own debuffs. Now she's one of the few characters, alright, it's because of her that you seldom use the other characters as well. You can see she heals herself and also remove the status ailment. So very good against Perorozilla in one particular raid boss, and it does seem to be centered around her. I would say she's more of a strong character than a mid character. Mari, I would say seldom used as well. She can also cleanse debuff and I believe gives shield, but yeah, I don't think you need her as much compared to a lot of other characters. Hatsune Miku collab. Okay, I don't have her, but she's just she's just not a really strong character, right? She is a collab character that was happening last time, so sadly because of that, not used that often. Now Akko, we have all talked about this, right? She is one of the best support in the game by far. There's just no reason to deny that. Alright, so let's just not pretend. Sadly, Hot Spring Cherino is one of the worst character in the game. Alright, so she's going to be there alongside with Tomo, which is going to be seldom used. Now for Onsen Chinatsu is one of the stronger characters. She can give buff for sure, but I think her slot has pretty much been replaced by New Year Kayoko, which we'll talk about shortly. Now next up we have Nadoka Hot Spring. Nadoka Hot Spring, Onsen Nadoka, she's also one of the better healer in the special slot. Now I do prefer Koharu over her, but different slots, right? She is going to be much more special slot, similar to Sarika in that case. Very, very strong. She provides a continuous heal and can also heal multiple units. Now, if you have her build, she can be used from time to time, but she's not staple in any particular raids as far as I can remember. You can use her in like Hieronymus, where you want to heal the lantern and stuff, but in most cases there are other healers that can replace her. Now as for New Year Aru, now this is where it gets super interesting. Now a lot of JP tier lists, I've seen them place her quite high. I don't think she is that strong. Now to be fair, Yori is here. Now I can see why people can consider her to be like on par with Yori to a certain extent, but she is going to be a little bit more. She competes with all these other characters. I feel like there's so many competitions in terms of the the piercing type overall of the nature. Plus she's one of the few characters that I want to say like it's much more heavier in terms of the investment, right? So you can see it is 6 costs. So there's that as well. I think that's where the issue lies. If you use her, most likely you're gonna need to pair her with Ui, and if you pair her with Ui, sure, she could be strong, but you are going to need that certain requirements to be able to do that. Personally, I think that there's plenty of other characters. I won't prioritize in focusing on her, but she's not bad for sure. She's definitely a strong, solid A tier in my humble opinion. With Ui, probably even top. Same goes for New Year Musuki as well. Very, very solid character. I'm going to place them next to each other. Now, New Year Musuki can be considered one of the better AoE characters for Mystic type. In fact, I will borderline push her up there because she's 2 cost, right? It's way easier to cycle. But you know what? She is only going to be used in Mystic raids or Blue raids, so I don't think she deserves the S+, right? So now let's have a look at this. New Year Sarika, I think similar with New Year Musuki, very, very strong in that sense. Instead of being a Mystic type, she's much more of a piercing type, yellow against yellow enemies. She is fitting in the special slot as opposed to the striker slot. Also AoE character, very, very strong fanship area, a very small cycle cost as well. Wakamo. Now, this is where it gets super interesting. Wakamo is a single target character. So you can see right here, so far the Mystic type, I try to put them in one particular. Okay, so I'm gonna put them right here. So Wakamo and Swimsuit Azusa, they both compete amongst each other, and it's because of that it's hard to put Wakamo above her, because there are certain instances where Swimsuit Azusa's defense debuff or defense reduction is going to be much more beneficial. However, Wakamo recently does receive the unique equipment. I do think that she's going to be slightly better in some cases or in most cases, but it's not just, I don't think it's enough to push her to be like way above 1 tier. I think they are still somewhat in the same-ish category, single target damage dealer to a boss. Fubuki is very strong, alright. However, you are most likely going to use her in only one boss, which is HOD, right? And outside of that, you're probably not going to use her as much. So she could either be here or here. She's a very niche free character. I feel like, I would say at least she has her usage for sure, right? I don't think she's going to be in the seldom category. So I think right here in B is going to be where she deserves. Chihiro is going to be somewhere here as well. Single target HOD, however, recently, Mika's threat is just going to be better. So Sena can be used for sure. She has very, very good heal. Borderline, I would consider her to be on par with Hot Spring Nadoka. But the problem is, you know, there's so many other healers that's just straight up better. It's really hard to recommend her, or it's hard for her to stand out compared to the others, right? And she does require an ambulance, right? So if you use her, you cannot use another like vehicle-based character like Iroha and stuff. Now next up we have Mori, okay? So not to be confused with Nori. Now some of these characters' name can be super confusing. She is going to be quite niche. She moves allies and increase attack speed. Now there are plenty of characters that can do that. Moving allies is going to be pretty cool. However, you know, not going to have much more of a use. In fact, I'm going to put her in seldom. I don't think many players actually use her that much based on what I've observed. Now this is where it gets interesting. Ui is a very, very strong character. In fact, she revolutionizes or modifies how you use a lot of character, and because of that I'm going to put her right here in the S+. I think she's a really strong support in the striker slot. Okay, if you guys are not aware of what she does, she basically halves the cost of a lot of characters. Alright, you might have heard of, oh, pair this character with Ui enables her. You might have heard of that theory before. So Ui she reduces a character's cost by half. Alright, so if a character is 6 cost, she basically reduces their EX skill to 3 costs. So she just makes a lot of high cost character way more prominent and way more usable than before, and is going to be very, very strong. And one more thing is also she's very budget friendly, and you don't need to like push her all the way to 5-star and say. So because of that, I think she's deserving of the S+ category. I'm going to say this roughly the same for Hinata as well, but then Hinata does compete with all these other AoE mystic type, right? So you can see we have Bani Asuna, we have Nuya Mutsuki, and then we have like Karin, and then we have, you know, Hinata. Now I think she's really strong, but I think she can only be strong if you pair her with Ui. If you use her on her own, I don't think she's that strong, right? She's not, because she's a 6 cost unit as far as I know. You need Ui to enable her. Again, some of these characters can seem deceiving. They might seem like, oh, I actually use her a lot, but then you pair her with Ui. In that case, is the damage dealer strong because of the damage dealer, or is it because of Ui that enables them to be strong, right? So that's something that you gotta consider, especially for all of these high cost character. You will see that pattern moving alongside. So in my opinion, I think she's definitely in the A tier, but I don't think I'll put her in the S+. Now next up we have Marina. Again, she is going to be a solid A tier character. However, her strongest suit is going to be in PvP, and that is where I think she shines the most. And I don't think you're going to use her much in PvE. She's a tank that pushes forward, you know, like modifies the position. Definitely in some drills, but that's pretty much where she shines. I don't think there's a raid that she shines as much. So in most cases, I'm going to put her in the B tier. Now next up, we have the SRT squad. So first up, we have Miyako. Decent character, you know, she's a decent tank, but I don't think she's like revolutionary by any means. I'm going to put her in the B tier. Now same goes for Saki. She can be used. She has a very small AoE that she shoots down on the enemy. She does fit in the special slot, so much more use in the HOD boss. Now as for Miu, I'm going to say she's much more of a seldom. You rarely will find a situation where she's going to be used a lot, right? And then same goes for Michiru as well. So sadly, the free welfare character, she can be used. She does similar stuff to Haruna in the case where she shoots enemies in the single line or Ares. But in most cases, if you have these two built, you're not going to use her. But if you don't have the other two, she could be a decent option to replace them. Now same goes for her. She is going to be seldom used. I don't even remember her name. Is it Kanade? Kaede? Something along those lines. But yeah, sadly there's plenty of all of these characters. You can see the amount of characters that we have is insane. So because of that, there's going to be a lot of characters that just will not you know, shine, or you know, they just have very, very similar roles. Now Iroha is the first one. I think the recommendation from a lot of players is to reroll for, you know, Iroha. She's one of the better characters and she can carry you in the story. I think because of that alone, she is going to be one of the top, one of the staple, one of the best character in the special slot. Alright, her tank is just insanely strong. Definitely recommend you guys to basically use her. Now as for this particular character, Tsukuyo, I'm starting to see more and more strategies using her. Alright, she is one of the better tank, which is very unique. She does heal herself based upon taking damage, which I thought is pretty interesting, pretty unique. But I feel like in most situations where you use her, it's going to be when you cheese, you know? So I'm going to put her in the seldom. She's not going to be the go-to tank. You can use her to cheese certain stages or certain bosses, but that's pretty much it. That's pretty much where she shines. Now same goes for her. You're going to be seldom used. These are characters that, again, most of these characters, they are not bad, alright, but they can be used for sure. Asuko, on the other hand, I think is a much more better character than the rest. I'm going to put her right here. Alright, she's definitely going to be one of the stronger tanks in terms of trying to achieve more flexibility. In fact, you can also pair her with other tank because she does heal and provides evasion, which is something that's going to be pretty decent overall. Now Swimsuit Wakamo, again, she's going to be one of the few characters that she's going to have the rare occasion where she's being used a lot. Swimsuit Onomi, on the other hand, is going to be a strong character. Now, she does compete alongside with these 4 characters: Azusa, Saori, Swimsuit Onomi, Small Shun. I do think that she shines in Hieronymus, alright? And if you're looking for a single target character, again, she is solid. However, you're gonna need Ui to enable her, alright? Because she's also quite high cost, 6 cost if I'm not mistaken. So Swimsuit Ayane is also a very strong character. She is deserving of the A category. She can summon a helicopter. Definitely free welfare character, but if you max her out, insane. Alright, she does decent damage. Very good if you're looking for a piercing type support. She will be able to help you that. Now, this girl is going to be an insanely strong support. Alright, Swimsuit Hoshino. In fact, I feel like she deserves to be on a separate category on her own. I feel like she's going to be used almost everywhere, in every single raid. I can't think of a single raid that you probably won't use her, maybe in the current Ghost raids, but she's just really strong. Alright, Swimsuit Hoshino is one of the better characters to use. If you want rerolling, right, if you're trying to get a character, you know you want to try to get her, she is available in the festival banner, currently happening in the 6%. Swimsuit Shizuko is also going to be one of them that I would say very strong. She has the ability to position or reposition characters, and for that alone, being on the special slot as well, makes her a very prominent support overall. Like a lot of people that miss out on her, definitely they do struggle a little bit in the upcoming raids because of that. I would say she's going to be one of the better characters in the game. Definitely, I think she is deserving of the S+ tier or category. Now Swimsuit Izuna, now we are talking, right? So this is the part where, what do I think of her personally? She is a limited character. She is going to be very strong, and she can do a number of things. She can decrease crit resistance, which is very useful. Crit resistance in this game is, it helps you to basically do more crit damage. She also can apply focus fire. I think that too is going to basically put her in a very top category. I'm gonna say she could borderline be either A or S+, but you know what? I'm gonna put her in S+ for now. She is someone that you can basically, because of her low nature in cost, 2 costs, you can also fit her in almost any other like bosses that's not her color, and she will be able to benefit you because decreased crit resistance again, like I mentioned, and also you can use her to cycle the full cycle to the other DPS characters, right? Very good in that sense. Now as for Swimsuit Chise, it's not going to be used much, so she's definitely going to be somewhere in the mid or the seldom section. Definitely, she's definitely going to be one of these two. Alright, next up we have Mo. Now Mo is a strong AoE character, right? I don't think that she's going to be pretty decent. However, she doesn't shine as much compared to, like, let's say, for example, if you have an option to pick between either Mo or Swimsuit Sarika, New Year Sarika, I feel like most players are going to pick her, alright, in most cases. So because of that, I'm going to put her right here. I believe her cost is higher as well. but she's actually not bad. All right, if you are looking to, you know, to basically tackle a bunch of AoE enemies, she can definitely help you. But there's just so much competition with all of these students. Kazusa, single target yellow type or piercing type rather. Let me put her along with all of these characters. That which are the single target yellow type again? It's going to be in Yori is up there. Single target yellow type. Oh, I don't have this yet. Okay, I'm going to put her right here. Okay, Maki. Yeah. This is where she belongs. So these are the single target yellow type, right? So we have Maki, very strong character. Hasumi, Karin, Pina, and Kazusa. So all of them really strong. The problem is you're probably going to use Maki most of the time, right? Because she can decrease defense, and these others are just, you know, they're going to trail behind. Sure, some of them could shine in their individual rates, but because they are yellow type, they are piercing type, they just all get outclassed by Mika, which, you know, we're going to jump to later. Kokona. Kokona is a very unique one. She's also a healer, right? The fact that Koharu is here, I think it's unfair to put Kokona below, but I do think that Koharu is still slightly better, not by much, but I think slightly better is because of the ability to do damage as well. She can basically do that, and Koharu is just easier to obtain for now, right? But I'm not counting, you know, the availability for that. I think Kokona has a little bit more finicky in terms of you know, the stem thing, the stem mechanic. So one tier below I think is fair. For me, I do think that, you know, if you have both of them, there's a chance in some rates that Kokona could be better than Koharu, for sure, right, because of the terrain and stuff. But in most cases, I think Koharu just makes more sense, like a much more general usage, since this is much more of a general tier list, right? Next up, we have the cheerleader Hibiki. She is a welfare character. She is an AoE type damage dealer, but that particular slot, you know, is just filled with so many other characters, like for example Minori, and later on you would see like Hibiki and stuff, the regular Hibiki I mean. So in that case, I don't think you're gonna like need her as much compared to the other characters. Same goes for cheerleader Utaha as well, sadly. Now Noah is going to be a unique one. She is going to be a focus fire character, and she can, you know, apply something that's very unique, which is focus fire. Now as far as I know, right now, it's only going to be her or Swimsuit Izuna. Now Swimsuit Izuna I think is still better because she also has her pair with low cost, number 1, 2 cost. Number 2, she also has the ability to apply decreased crit resistance. So because of that, you know, I'm going to place them one tier apart of each other. I think that's pretty fair. But do keep in mind, Swimsuit Asuna is going to be limited, while Noah is not. And then next up, we have Bani Akane. Now this is where it gets interesting. Bani Akane, again, AoE character on the special slot. So definitely I'm going to place her right here with a bunch of other mystic type characters right here. She does fit pretty well. Okay. And then we have, okay, so another free character. She's really strong. Now Tracksuit Hasumi is probably one of the strongest single target mystic type character. However, you know, again, she runs into similar issue. You can see she competes with Swimsuit Azusa. She competes with Wakamo. Alright, these are all, you know, single target you know, mystic type character. That's why I didn't put them in the S+, because all of these, like, they compete amongst each other. So if you have Wakamo, you don't need her. And the truth is, if you have her, you probably don't need Wakamo or her as much, right? You can basically just use her. She is really strong. She does a lot of damage. Insanely strong character for a free, you know, someone that's free in the one of the events, right? Now Tracksuit Yuka is where it gets super interesting. Now I do think that she is S+. Now hear me out. What she does is not that impressive. She basically shifts characters around. Alright, so again, that is something that's like we have seen before. Having the ability to basically move characters around is not going to be like unique to her. Now one other thing that she does is also give shield. Now this is where it gets interesting. She can give shield, alright, and I think that barrier actually helps a lot. Alright, so also she increased mystic effectiveness, which can be kind of decent, right? I do think that this combination definitely makes her very, very good. Her low cost as well, alright, 3 cost. You can move characters around, give them shield, low cost. I think she's one of the better characters in the game. So in that particular role, if you want to call like moving characters a category, she could be the best one in terms of moving a character. So I'm going to place her in the insanely high tier. Now let's talk about Tracksuit Mary. Where do I place Tracksuit Mary? Now Koharu is right here. Kokona is right here. These are all striker healers. I think Tracksuit Mary is more closer to Koharu than Kokona. Again, this is just my opinion. I feel like she can heal and her heal is just insane. Now she is position dependent. Alright, so she has to be near to a certain character, alright, to be able to heal them. So that's going to be one issue of using her. However, you know, she does a lot in terms of healing. If you build her, there's a chance that you don't need Koharu as much as well. But I still like Koharu more because of the ability to be able to aim where you want to heal, targeted heal. I think because of that, because of her position dependency, I'm going to place her same as Kokona right here. They could all belong in the same tier, right? All 3 of these, very, very strong striker healers. But there's going to be some differentiation right there. Now Himari, this is something that we don't have to talk about as much, alright? You guys know where I'm going to place her, come on. Akko is there, Himari is going to be next, right next to her. Shigure, sadly, she's not going to be used as much. The truth is, same applies for Christmas, Sarika, alright? And I mean Serena, and also Christmas Hanae. These 2 characters are not going to be used as much, alright? They are not limited characters. New Year Junko, I would say she's much more here than seldom. I feel like she does have her usage. If you know how to use her, for sure, she is going to be an AoE character. But I do think that Koharu is better, the welfare Koharu, swimsuit Koharu in this case, if you're looking for an AoE character, right? So there's that, right? Again, the competition is intense. Now, New Year Haruka is where it gets super interesting. I think she could be one of the few characters that I will place her in the super top. She is an AoE character, right? And she shines in a very... Again, I think why I would put her on top is going to be same reason with why I put Yori where she is. Alright, so she has this particular skill, 5 costs. She attacks 5 enemies dealing this percentage of damage, alright, to each, and deals 98% of attack as damage to enemies in the circular area. However, her attack bounces around and it could be single target as well. So this is where it gets super interesting. She has a very unique mechanic similar to Yori where it's very rare, alright, she's an AoE character but she can hit the same character twice or more than once. So that's where I would say it makes her really unique, and she could be an S plus borderline in the middle here, right? If there's a tier in between, but for now, I think she deserves the S plus category. Now New Year Fuuka, come on, let's be honest here. Alright, she is going to be one of the best character in the game, alright, support, in terms of competing with Akko and Himari. Now the reason why is because she can also do something similar to swimsuit, similar to Ui, because of the ability to give the cost. Now keep in mind, alright, did I say New Year Fuuka? Alright, New Year Fuuka, again, very strong character. Highly recommend to pull her whenever she reruns. She's going to be one of the most important character, I would say, in terms of tackling one of the higher difficulty rates. So for sure that's going to be very important. Now let's talk about this character here. Alright, so she is going to be a very interesting one. I don't even remember her name. Is it called Mine? Yes, Mine is the name. Oh man, my brain is not working. This video is so long, man. Okay, so the problem with Mine is like, you're probably going to use her from time to time, right? But I don't think she's a must-have. So I don't think she's bad either. So it's hard to say that she is a bad character. I think somewhere here is where it makes a lot of sense. Alright, so she definitely has her use. I'm not saying that she's completely useless, but I don't think she's like in the top tier. Alright, she's not a go-to tank for a lot of people. She's much more specialized. Now, this is where it gets super interesting. Mecha. Right, everybody knows about her. Let's just not pretend. She's the strongest character in the game. Alright, so DPS wise, she's just a straight up a monster. Alright, so you gotta pick her up if you can. So this one is much more of a PvP unit. As for Kana, she is definitely a strong character. Alright, so she is a standard banner, very very strong. Sakurako, I feel like she could be borderline here or here, but you know what, I don't think she's that bad. I think she can be used. If you have her, she's definitely going to be decent in a lot of situations, but I don't think she fits in with the rest of the one in strong. Now as for Nagisa, this is where it gets interesting. I don't think Nagisa is that much higher compared to a Hibiki. I think she's slightly better than Hibiki personally, right? But I think they are both really really similar. If Hibiki is in A tier, so does Nagisa. Alright, I think that's really fair. Toki is going to belong in the A tier category as well. She is going to be one of the stronger characters. I think she's going to be harder to use, but I don't think she's bad by any means. Alright, so if you don't have any option, she's going to be used right there. She is a straight line shooter for an explosive type, so there's that as well. Now let's talk about the rest. Koyuki. Alright, and New Year Kayoko, this is where it gets interesting. Now this girl right here, she is going to be a very interesting one overall. Her concept is really really interesting. I think she is going to be much more niche. She can be used, but it's just I've heard a mixture of opinions regarding her. For players that have her, she's definitely somewhere between here or here. Again, I'm not super familiar with her. I'm just going to say it up front. I think based on what I've seen so far, she's definitely going to belong in somewhere in the B tier. I don't think she's bad as well. Now New Year Kayoko is where it gets super interesting. She is going to be staple. She is so strong for a buffer, even though she's only going to be used in one particular type of raid, which is Mystic type. I still think she deserves to be in the S+. Now just because she's so good, right? There's just no reason to not use her in most cases, but it's really hard to justify that because like I said, a lot of characters that belong in the S+ is like they are super flexible. They can be used in a variety of different situations, but you can't say the same for her. Alright, she is going to be still a raids only focus units. You're not going to use her elsewhere. So I think A is where, I think it makes a lot of sense. Same goes for New Year Haruka. Alright, she is also going to be in the A because, of the cost. Now Kaho, she suffers a similar thing to all the single target Mystic type. So again, I'm going to put her right here, right? So this is where it gets super interesting. Now she competes with Wakamo, she competes with Traxxu Asumi, she competes with Shinsu Azusa. Now these are the characters that, they have like a lot of competition. A lot of single target, damage dealer competition. So there's that, right? So there's going to be those things for sure. Alright, so next up we have Maid Yuzu, a very decent option if you are looking to do a bunch of damage to an area. She should be deserving of the A tier right here. Alright, same goes for Maid Ares. I think again another single target. Oh boy, single target Mystic type. Alright, so many competitions among each other right there. Same goes for, okay, now this is different. This is Maid, or rather Bunny Toki. Now Bunny Toki is a single target explosive type. As you can see, she's going to compete much more with Azusa. If I can find her, she is right here. Alright, so she competes with Azusa, she competes with Saori. In fact, a lot of players say that she is better than Saori, and I can see that, right? Because she has less cost. Alright, she does a lot of damage for so little cost. I think she's going to make more sense for a lot of players that are looking to tackle a single target bosses, explosive type. If you're new, probably build her, she makes way more sense. Alright, but I think Azusa is still better for the decreased defense passive. But other than that, I think she is going to be very very flexible. All 5 of these are single target explosive type or raid damage dealers, right? And then now we have Reisa. Now Reisa is a strong character. Alright, I can wholeheartedly say she's a strong character. She's one of the newer characters for sure, but still very very strong, very very solid tank. As for this girl right here, Rumi, she is a healer, again, pretty strong, but a lot of other characters are just healers, they just compete. You don't really need so many healers, alright? You are only going to need one healer per team, and therefore they are going to be much more way more niche. She is strong against Gregorius, alright, and pretty much that's going to be where you're going to focus on using her. Now let's talk about Mina, and that's going to be the same one with her. Mina could be borderline here or here. I feel like because she's so focused on Gregorius, she's so tied to that particular boss, I'm going to put her right here in the B tier because of that particular reason. Now as for Minori, she is super expensive to use. Now let's be honest, right? She is strong, but is she strong outside of Gregorius? I don't think so, right? I think Hibiki is going to make more sense for a lot of people. Alright, where's Hibiki? Hibiki is right here, right? And I think Nagisa as well. So these two are going to make more sense for general usage. So because of just the specialization part, yes, she's going to be strong against Gregorius, but you know what? Because she's only strong in that one area, she can be used for sure, but her cost is super high. Outside of Gregorius, I don't think you're going to use her that much compared to Hibiki and Nagisa. So I'm going to place her right here. Now next up we have Swimsuit Miyu. Again, same issue with Minori right there. Now as for Swimsuit Miyako, I do think that she's strong. Alright, she is having the cost regen is always going to be helpful. I think she's one of the few tanks that can be used quite often in a lot of variety of different places. Swimsuit Saki, I think suffers from the same issue with the rest. Alright, she is going to be, a Gregorius focused unit. I doubt you'll be using her outside of that, let's be honest, right? Now, we are approaching the end of the tier list. Swimsuit Ui, she is going to be really really strong. I think wherever New Year Kayoko is, Swimsuit Ui is going to be there. Very very strong solid unit, I would say. Pull her if you can, but not like a S plus tier, right? So next up we have Swimsuit Hanako. Okay, so this is where it gets a little bit interesting. Now I did obtain her just only, obviously about a couple of hours ago. I mean Hinata. Did I say Hanako? Swimsuit Hinata. She is, as far as I know, she has a lot of competition. Alright, she is 6 cost as you can see again, and you know what? Looking at all of these multiplier and stuff, I do think that in most cases players are still going to stick with their Hibiki or Nagisa. So do they deserve in the same slot though? I'm going to say she could be somewhere in between, but in most cases she's probably going to be somewhere in B tier as opposed to Hibiki and Nagisa. I think it's fair since Minori is also right here. And last but not least, up till this point, we have Swimsuit Hanako. Now Swimsuit Hanako is going to be the first Mystic Damage Dealer, DPS. And yes, she's going to be a very very strong character. And you know what? I do recommend people to pull for her. She's a Sonic type damage dealer, and in most cases a must-have. If you're looking at JP tier list for the raids, a lot of players recommend you guys to pull her. And you know what? She is, future-proof as well in that sense. So, oh my god, I can't believe I sit through the entire thing. So that is a lot of... Man, Blue Archive has so many characters, that's insane. Now the rest are going to be the JP only characters. I'm not going to tier them yet, but of course I do intend to update this tier list in the future, so stay tuned. We're going to tier all the other characters once they come out to global. But yeah, these tier lists are going to be constantly updated accordingly. And as you can see, right, a lot of these characters are going to be, we are going to move up and down accordingly for sure. But again, take all of this with a grain of salt. This is going to be my opinion in terms of which characters are the best, hopefully, to focus on. If you're a new player, the S plus and the A, these are the ones that you want to probably focus on first. Now, with that being said, I think that's going to be it for this video. This is a rather long one. Subscribe if you guys haven't already. Give this video a like. and leave your comments below. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Have a nice day. Goodbye.